Okay, guys, we'll be waiting for a little bit of people to join and we'll begin talking about the fights. Okay, what's going on here? Why is this not charging? It's not the Oh, God. Hello, Real Souza. Hello, James Kendrick. Shreya, my man. Team hater. You know I'm whole team hater myself, my dude. So we're ready to be hating. Phantom, we have Phantom. I appreciate your presence, my man. Are you excited for more cultural appropriation sponsored by the Saudis? Yes, I am. We all love some cultural appropriation, especially when it's like Mexico and the Saudis. It's just so great, right? Anyway, I'll start setting up some stuff to make the intro and that kind of stuff. Today I'm not drinking Rockstar. Today we're drinking Score. I think this brand is Chilean, but it's pretty good. It's like knockoff Red Bull, but I think it's a bit better taste wise. And it's cheap too, by the way. So that's always great. Oh yeah, I like it. Okay, so let's put some tabs in here just to make sure. Okay, there's some stuff that we gotta do here. Stardust 009 says, I will knock John Jones in less than 5 seconds. I hope you do, my dude. I hope you do. You would be doing a service to humanity if you were to do that. Okay, we have a few people here, so why not why don't we get into the card and shit. As always, I'll be recording my notes, the breakdowns of the fights. I have those pre-written, and in between those, I'll stop the recording of the podcast to go and interact with you guys. Anyone is there to talk some stuff? Let's check the chat for the last time. I'm looking to buy a Mexican food where the restaurant is bought and paid for Abu Dhabi Investment Group. Yeah, man. I hope Abu Dhabi starts buying me some tacos or some shit, right? we could we could all do with a little bit of that. All right, we'll start recording then. What's up, everyone? I'm Feño from the Fight Side, and this is the full preview. This is UFC 306, also known as UFC Noche, and also it's like Siyat season or something. Riyadh season, excuse me. So yeah, this is a pay-per-view. This is going on in the Sphere at Las Vegas, Nevada. So no elevation this time at Noche UFC. And the main event is a very interesting fight at the marquee division of the sport, in my opinion, that is bantamweight. It is a fight for the bantamweight championship. We have Sugar Shan Omalley trying to bring the Sugar Show to Noche UFC against Merab Dvalishvili, the machine. This is only a 10 fight card, which is something we have not seen for a pay-per-view in a very long time. And we have, and to be honest, the matchmaking here is very solid. I feel like a lot of people are really disappointed about it, but I feel this is a well put together card. The amount of fights is kind of disappointing, gotta admit that. But yeah, they're trying to sell us like this like multimedia experience with the whole sphere and stuff, but really we only care about the fights. I'm not saying that it's not going to look cool or anything. I'm not saying that it's going to look good either. Like we'll see. The sphere seems like an interesting place, but I mean, this kind of fights I'd rather see in a very big arena to get like the whole public screaming. I think the sphere doesn't hold a lot of capacity for people. But yeah, we have 10 fights. And why don't we get to our first fight of the night? Let's get right into it, and then we'll get into some questions and that kind of stuff for those of you that are listening to this live. So the first fight of the night is a bantamweight fight, just like our main event. And it has Raul Rosas Jr. versus Aoriqileng. Let's begin with Raul Rosas. A dynamic and big grappler, the young prodigy Rosas is still raw but still dangerous. His striking is nothing to write home about, but he has power and decent timing with his flurries of punches, kicks, and tricky knees. And he leverages his takedown threat well to land strikes. So far, his defense has relied entirely on distance management and his level change. An imposing takedown threat, Rosas doesn't have great setups on entries, but he can shoot fast and is willing to drive opponents and chain attempts with little concern for his gas tank, which makes him very dangerous early during fights but has shown to not be sustainable on the long term. On the ground, Rosas has been mostly a backtake specialist, finishing most of his fights via rear naked choke, but he has also shown an affinity for the armbar. He has been reversed during transitions in the past, and while he's a capable grappler off his back, that's something to look for. Cardio, or better said, energy management and striking defense had been the most glaring flaws for the young prospect so far. Against him, we have Aoriqileng, a powerful but stiff kickboxer with tight mechanics. At range, he likes to probe with leg kicks from both legs and shoulder feints, looking to draw punches to counter. If opponents aren't willing to exchange, he will open up with variations of the 1-2-3, leaping into range with power. That said, he's at his best as a counter puncher, being good at timing right hands on entries and clipping disengaging opposition with the left hook. As fight goes on, he varies his targets and shot selection more, being the owner of a dangerous uppercut and a nasty left hook to the body. Physically strong, he has good first layer takedown defense, attacking grips early and sprawling or angling out when he sees shot coming. But he can be put down in transitions or with chain wrestling. Not much depth to his grappling, but works responsibly to get back to his feet, and he has solid posture on ground and pound when he gets top control. Conditioning has been hit and miss, but seems to have improved as of late. So, Aoriqileng is very experienced, and his power is an ever-present danger, especially against someone as raw on the feet as Rosas is. That being said, this is clearly meant as a showcase for Rosas, and Aoriqileng, for all his athleticism, has looked sketchy defending takedowns against the fence, and he's not a cardio machine to take over late either. You would expect Rosas to still be improving considering his age and level of experience, but even if he's the same fighter we have already seen inside the octagon, he should have more than a decent shot at getting his game going early. The UFC gets what they want, and Rosas wins via submission on the first round. So let's check with the chat. Rio Sosen says, would it be funny if a fight fell through and there's only 9 fights? I mean, it would suck for me as an spectator, but it would be very funny for the UFC. Gotta give you that, right? Oh, we have my countryman here, the Red Chilean. Que pasa, weón? We get to see just how much of a draw Sean Omalley really is. Yeah. I think, to be fair, I'm pretty confident that Sean Omalley is one of the biggest stars in the sport right now. But it's interesting to see how he carries this like big event by himself, right? We know that Merab is very, very well liked in the MMA community, but he's not a draw outside of that. So we'll see what's going on with that, right? We'll see how big is actually the star power of Omalley. Shriram says, segment in between every fight calling John Jones the GOAT to pad the round time. It's probably going to be like that, you know, like Dana White is with the brain of Mr. Tomato. Dana White is fucking messed up at the moment, right? dude is not doing right. The whole like, oh, John Jones is pound for pound number one. This is stupid. It's so embarrassing, man. Um. Okay, Phantom says against Turcios, did you like Rosas Matt returning to Broomstick to take the back? Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I think those kind of streaks, especially because the Broomstick is like very energy efficient, so that's a good development for Rosas, right? But he still got reversed going on the back take, which was something that Zero did a lot in his fight. And Turcios was not able to capitalize because he was, I feel, a bit nervous. I feel like fighters, Rosas fights with the same advantage that Paddy Pimblett does. That because of the hype, fighters fight very nervous because they feel like it is a very big deal to beat them. I feel like that's something that happens with Paddy Pimblett, with Alex Pereira, and with Raul Rosas to different extent to all of them, right? And one key aspect for Christian Rodriguez to beat Raul Rosas was that not only he was like straight up better, but he was like super cool and collected. He did not give a shit about the hype. We have Trayvon in the house, my man, dude. We'll be talking about your boy Joshua Ban later. Fenner, how do you stay up to watch the fight when the hours are super mismatched? I mean, I don't know, man. It's so many hours of watching fights, but I've been dedicated my Saturdays to watch shitty fights for the last like 5 years, maybe more, man. When I didn't like do this like the analysis gig, I still watch like basically all the UFC I could. So I'm already my brain is already rotten to the core to watch fights. So I just endure the fights. Mr. Tomato has lost the juice. Yeah, for sure. Bakitov says that everyone who fought Pereira in MMA lost before they even got into the cage since they are so scared of him. I totally agree. Yeah, to be honest, I felt like Sean Strickland fought like and was fighting pretty decent before getting knocked out. But even if you don't fear Alex Pereira, like he can still fuck you up, and we saw that against Sean Strickland, right? And we saw Adesanya is not scared of Pereira despite losing all those times against him, and he was able to put a good fight. Sounds like we need a guy who doesn't believe in hype to beat Pereira. Feel no hype horse. Oh yeah, Dracus would not give a shit about the hype, right? Like the Duplessis sucks to. I hate to see Dracus winning, but he has some of that good qualities too. He's a winner. It sucks to admit, but Duplessis is a winner. Let's get into the second fight then. The second one, which is a very good one. But I like to pull up the. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, thank you. After that, we have a flyweight bout. Edgar Chairez welcomes Joshua Ban. So let's begin with Chairez. A big and locked boxer, Chairez fights out of a narrow stance and is fine both moving on the outside and walking forwards. He usually feints at range, folding at the hips, slipping both ways, looking to pot shot with his sharp jab, looking to set up his straight right overhand or his left hook. His narrow stance allows him to kick quickly, and he's a capable kicker with both legs, even if he can lack setups for his lower body attacks. His left hook is his main weapon, be it leaping into range after establishing his jab or shaking with it on the counter. Big movements like shifting entries and especially spinning back fists and jumping knees help with adding dynamism and variety, but can leave him open for counters. He moves his head well and has solid footwork, but his tendency to wait and keep a medium pace can get him hit, especially by volume strikers. A hit and miss defensive wrestler, Chairez uses his size and footwork well to deny takedowns when he sees them coming, grabbing underhooks or a strong whizzer and angling well to remain upright, but he has been taken down by solid wrestlers during transitions, particularly when he squared his hips for his right hand. From his back, he's an old-school guard player with a dangerous triangle armbar series and also a guillotine that he can find during transitions. He can use his submission threat to sweep or get back up, but can be stalled by strong top position players. Chairez doesn't really control the direction and pace of a fight, and that coupled with some grappling deficiencies and lack of urgency are his biggest flaws. Against him, we have Joshua Ban, a smooth and athletic boxer with a functional kicking game to add variety. Ban likes to walk people down, poking with jabs, side kicks, front kicks, and leg kicks from range, looking to find spots to either put longer combinations together or draw actions to counter. He likes to counter early into exchanges, timing same time right hands or looking for pull counters or coming back off the sleep. Joshua likes to attack the body when putting combinations together, and while he doesn't have a lot of setup for his kicks, he's quick and is dangerous finding his head kick. Even though Ban has quite a few defensive tools in the way of head movement and footwork, his defense is not layered and it can fall apart when put on the back foot or having made to deal with longer combos when he doesn't have the initiative. He mostly relies on his excellent vision and his control of the initiative with his pressure to keep himself safe. Similar to his striking defense, his takedown defense is also fierce layer based. His control of the initiative and vision also allow him to see shots coming, and he's the owner of an explosive and heavy sprawl with which he denies most entries. If pushed to the fence, his stocky frame and low center of gravity allow him to fight for underhooks and has proven to be very hard to take down. Not much of his grappling has been seen yet. Ban has good process and good instincts, a good chin and high athletic attributes all around. His lack of depth in certain areas, especially when pushed back, are the biggest problems for the young fighter. I think it is safe to say that Ban will pressure and Chairez will move on the outside here, and that's a fight where Ban has the advantage. While Chairez has good footwork on the outside and can counter effectively, he doesn't maintain great pace despite his good cardio, and his defense, similarly to Ban's, doesn't hold up when pushed back with extended combinations. Joshua will be the smaller fighter, but he's the bigger and tighter puncher with clearer process. The X factor here is that not only Ban was KO'd like less than 2 months ago, but also he's taking this fight in 2 weeks notice. With the deck stacked against him, I still gotta go with the favor by the matchup, so I'm picking Ban to win by decision. So let's get back into the shot. Draco's agree on me. It's really funny. It's like watching a cartoon in real life. Rio asks, is Chairez dependent on shifting entries? I saw him jump guard against Lacerda. Yeah, I feel like Chairez does a lot of shifting entries, despite him being the owner of a very solid jab. He's like one of those fighters that likes to use those like tricks, you know. He likes to add variety with the dynamic movements, and I think that's why he likes those shifts. He is like a way to surprise people, I feel. Sriram feel a little like Ban might be a big bit too quick. Like, yeah, it's flyweight, but energy uppercut was nasty as hell. Yeah, he was concussed for sure in that finish against Rosas Jr. So I'm like I'm not super confident on Ban winning this one. I feel like he can still pull it off because the matchup is so in his favor. It's not that Chairez is bad, but it's just how they match up, right? But I would not be like super surprised to see Chairez just nail him with something big and just knock him out again, because it's just been 2 months, right? James Kendrick says, Man likes to punish the exit with the high kick off the fence. Can that bad when Chairez gets tall? Yeah, that could be a useful tool in this one, because Chairez likes to start very tall and sometimes doesn't tuck his chin. He could eat a head kick. There's a chance for that. What do you think of Ban's overhook and wrist control when defending along the fence? I think I think it's good, but I think it's an interesting choice for someone that is kind of on the short side and on the small side for flyweight, right? I wonder what if if the wizard plus wrist control would work against like a more layered wrestler, like if Tyra put him against the fence and started like chaining attempts, or someone even like Mokayev, right? Like he's not in the division anymore, but just wondering, like it seems like Ban is like very meat and potatoes when it comes to defending takedowns. And I feel like someone with more variety, with more nuance to the chain wrestling could get him down eventually. How good is his grappling on the floor? We're yet to see, right? Ban kind of has Burgos vibes to me. A guy who has great defense as long as his size hold up, and he's a monster in trades, including bodywork. Whose game really needs a lot of confidence and scary game. Yeah, actually, we'll see. Because if Ban doesn't like push the same pressure anymore, he doesn't have that. The depth to his striking is not that much. Like I don't feel like Joshua Ban can pull off. I mean, he's good, right? He can beat a lot of guys like fighting on the back foot. But now at the level that he's right now, I wouldn't be so sure about Ban again fighting on the back foot. Like we saw when Kevin Borjas pushed him back in the first round of their fight. Borjas started like landing good shots, hurt him. And when Ban wins the fights is when he gets the pressure going, right? And if he lost confidence in pressuring that hard, that could be troublesome for him. So yeah, that's interesting. I'm not insanely confident in this one, as I said, but I feel like Ban can still pull it off. I feel like Chairez is good, Ban is better, and also has the advantage on the matchup. So I gotta go with Ban despite the knockout and the short notice. On the flip side, Joshua Ban being like a smaller flyweight, it's probably good for the weight cut, right? Like he can probably make weight without much of a notice, and it seems like he's not a guy that gets super big out of camp, doesn't get out of shape. So we'll see. Let's get into the next one. Next, we have a strawweight bout. We have Jasmine Jauregui against the Brazilian Ketlen Souza. Let's begin with Jauregui. A pace kickboxer, Jauregui likes to operate at open space and put numbers on her opponents. She moves around poking with kicks and her 1-2 looking for spots to put long combinations together. While she can be a bit raw with her combos once she starts them, she stays aware and is mechanically tight and well schooled when it comes to habits. Jauregui has decent footwork, moving at range, and is mindful of not getting pushed to the fence easily. And while she throws a lot of predetermined combinations, her variety and preemptive defense on exits make her harder to hit than you would expect for someone who puts themselves out there so much. Jauregui has decent pop in her hands, stays over her feet, varies targets, counters with volume, and her kicks and punches complement each other well. She could afford to feint more, and her tempo is steady, which means she can be vulnerable to counters, and her defense isn't exactly layered, relying on her time mechanics, aggression, and fierce layered blocks and footwork to keep her opponents at bay and herself safe. The clinch is another strong area. She's quick to grab underhooks or collar ties and fire knees and elbows on transition with good timing, being aided by her physical strength. She will mix in takedown attempts, mostly to use the reactions to transitions into strike or clinches, and her takedown defense has been very solid so far. Her grappling is a bit of a question mark at a high level of competition. A good athlete with outstanding cardio, her durability is a bit concerning, and so is her lack of depth when she doesn't have control of a fight. Against her we have Ketlen Souza, a wide bouncy stance athletic striker. While a bit wild, Ketlen is a dexterous and powerful puncher from both sides. Souza doesn't really control the direction of the fight, as she mostly takes what's given to her, and she has some tools for most ranges. She can punch her from the outside with kicks, including a stabbing snap kick to the body, and her bouncing in and out movement allow her to quickly close the distance with power shots. Her wide left hook and her sitting down on her overhand give her some countering options, but she's really at her best when she traps opponents against the fence and unloads long combinations to the body and head, being surprisingly competent combination puncher on top of having big power. Her distance management and reactions at range are serviceable, and she does move her head from side to side when attacking with her combos, but there's not a lot of nuance to her defense, and she can be hit mid-combination and during exits. She also tends to grab clinches to smother opposition or to mix things up, and while she's physically strong and has decent timing for strikes in transition, she can get exposed in the clinch. She will look for her own takedowns, mostly in the form of trips from the bodylock and wizard kicks, but she has been taken down while getting lazy inside the clinch. Her grappling has looked decent, and she's the owner of heavy ground and pound, but her scrambling relies on her physicality. Souza is decently tough, has good chin, and is well conditioned, but despite her good cardio, her output tends to fade late into fights. This should be an action striking affair, and while both girls like to mix up some takedown attempts, this one is probably going to play out on the feet. We've seen that Jauregui's effectiveness is diminished when facing power punchers that can limit her volume with their counter threat, but the Mexican is adaptable and has a lot of variety in her arsenal to find solutions. Souza is a bit more one note when it comes to tactics, but she has decent tools to inflict damage in all ranges, and Jauregui's chin has looked sketchy a few times in the past. Souza has quite a few things in common with both Lucindo and Denise Gomes, who gave trouble to Jauregui with their power in the past, so this could be a lot closer than what most people are expecting, but Jauregui has the more consistent output, is better conditioned, and has seemed to improve since her debut. Closer than I initially thought, but I'm still picking the favorite here. Jauregui wins by decision. Let's get back into the shot. Okay, Shriram is talking about Chairez. I haven't seen my Chairez, but these super principal pocket operators can sometimes hate when guys work in blitzes. Yeah, that's actually true. That's actually true. We saw a little bit of that with Dustin Poirier against Bobby Green, right? Dustin, who was a lot more shifty at the time, and not yet the super ambidextrous puncher that he ended up doing, but he still used that, like doubling up sides. But it was like just following up when Bobby was trying to move on the outside, and Dustin was just like shifting and just putting combos together, and that was what caught Bobby Green. And I feel like there was a lot of that when Charles Johnson went at Van at the end, right? He was just like being aggressive and going in and out with shifts and shit. Was not like a controlled like one-on-one boxing exchange that these kind of guys like, right? Ghost says, do you think Jauregui gets one note when she gets going? Against Denise Gomes, she stood at boxing range and got cracked by an overhand while shifting her weight back. I feel like she got a lot better about it in her fight against Sam Hughes. I think she showed more variety in her selection of shots and more variety in the preemptive defense that I was mentioning in the analysis, right? Because Jauregui is very diligent about just like ending combinations, moving your head, ending combinations, taking an angle. So I feel like she's getting better at that. What I feel can be dangerous for her is that she fights in a very steady rhythm, right? So she can be easy to time, and that could be dangerous, especially against someone that can punch like Souza. And we saw that Jauregui, for as powerful and dynamic that she has looked in some fights, when she fought a Lucindo, you saw that there was a bit of like, okay, I cannot go ham here. And then we saw Denise Gomes putting her out. So, and to be honest, I thought Sam Hughes hurt her a few times. A closer fight than a lot of people think, in my opinion, that fight against Sam Hughes. To be honest, I feel like Sam Hughes is kind of underrated. So not being too hard on Jauregui. I feel like Jauregui is still a very exciting prospect, right? Let's get into the next one. Which one is the next one? Oh, we have my countryman. Next fight is contested at lightweight. We have a fight between Manuel El Loco Torres versus Ignacio La Jaula Bahamondes. Let's begin with Manuel Torres. El Loco is a violent, athletic, and dynamic fighter who is hard to get a read on. From range, Torres throws most of his strikes with full power. He's the owner of a stiff long jab that he couples with big calf kicks and long front snap kicks to the body and head to compete at range. Usually what he wants to do is using his jab or fighting hands in the open to find openings for his power shots. He can throw his hooks long from range or compact from up close, and he has big power with both hands and good sense of timing, rhythm, and an eye for openings. And he has great instincts to play changeups with his offense, being mixing the target of his kicks, mixing hooks, uppercuts, and straight shots, or mixing things up with a knee or an elbow. He's comfortable creating offense from both stances and from both sides, no matter the stance matchup. He stays balanced during his attacks and has good eyes, but he tends to keep his chin high during attacks, and while he can parry and use his high guard, his over-reliance on leanbacks can get him into trouble. Not only dangerous with strikes, Torres is also a grappling threat. Inside the clinch, he's a physical presence, and his knees and elbows help him keep opponents on their toes when he looks for takedowns from the body lock. Back takes and guillotines during transitions are his go-to weapons on the mat, and he has shown to be capable scrambler when on his back and an opportunistic finisher if he gets a hold of an attempt. Torres has never gone the distance against high-level opposition, so his gas tank in a high-output fight is a question mark. And while his shin has shown to be very good, he has been hurt in the past. His reads and vibes-based style could get exposed against fighters with constant output who can control the pace and ranges of a fight. Bahamondes, a long switch stance kickboxer. Bahamondes likes to maintain a long distance to pot shot with straight shots and his variety of kicks that he can throw to all three levels from both legs with ease. Bahamondes does a good job of punishing foes with his kicks and straight shots and then intercepting them when they try to close the distance on him, be it with the rear straight or long uppercuts that he also uses to drag down foes when they are backing up. Ignacio moves well on the outside and makes sure to move his head and feet after combinations when he gets close, but his reactive defense can be lacking and has been hit at range when he doesn't back up. Bahamondes keep a high pace and will follow up with volume when opponents back up, but he doesn't have smash pop in his punches when flooring, as he favors volume with arm punches. He's better off at picking his shot to find his deadly kicks when he has opponents hurt. A well-rounded Mike Valle product, he has solid takedown defense, aided by his long frame and distance he establishes. He can sprawl or diligently dig for underhooks against the fence, but has had trouble defending takedowns against good entries in open space. A solid grappler, Bahamondes has been defensively sound off his back, is a decent wall walker, and will attack submission attempts from his back to create space, but can be controlled and hit with ground and pound by patient top position players. During transitions, he has shown the ability to threaten with front headlock chokes with his long arms. Ignacio Bahamondes is very tough and well conditioned, but he can lack a second gear when he's down in the scorecards. A very intriguing bout at 155. While both guys are known for their dynamic finishes, Bahamondes clearly has the process edge here and also the length to trouble Torres, who is used to being the longer guy inside the cage. Torres is the more immediately damaging fighter, packing more power in his shots, and is probably the better grappler if it goes there too. Torres might be the shorter fighter, but he's still long and is good at closing the distance, and his powerful leaping hooks might cause trouble to Bahamondes, who has been hittable at range even by shorter guys than Torres. These go both ways though, as Bahamondes' output, variety, and length are likely to allow him to exploit Torres' defense to an extent other fighters couldn't in the past. The threat from yet another finish by the Mexican is ever present here, but I think the cardio, output, variety, and process of the Chilean will carry him to a decision victory, so my pick is Bahamondes by decision. And we're back to the shot. Bahamondes mentioned John McDessie's supremacy. Rio Souza says, should Bahamondes just pressure Torres in this fight? I'm not sure. I mean, Bahamondes has shown some ability to walk forwards, especially when he gets behind like his jab and his own kicks. But I feel like Bahamondes, to get his defense going, he likes to fight at least neutral ground, because then he can like jab and lean back and do all his stuff and use his head movement and his angles. And I feel like if Bahamondes pressures too hard, he will get into like pocket boxing exchanges. And while he might be a bit better of a boxer technically than Torres, I feel like Torres has like the better feel, and for sure the more powerful puncher inside the pocket, right? So I feel like it's important for Bahamondes to keep on the front foot, but I would not advise him to like pressure too hard to try to corner Manuel Torres, because he doesn't want to get into those pocket exchanges, right? John Dong says, "Sup guys, hello my man, happy to have you here. We're just talking about some fights." Oh, I like the next one. Probably the only guy that is excited about this one, but let's get into that. After that, we have a bantamweight fight. It is Irene Aldana against Norma Dumont. Let's begin with Aldana. A long kickboxer with a powerful left hook, Aldana either engages in neutral space or walks people down behind her high guard. From distance, she mostly scores with a sharp jab and solid leg kicks, and keeps herself safe with decent footwork and a responsible high guard. Her jab is mostly used to line up her big right hand or eventually draw openings for her signature left hook. Her left hook is powerful and compact, and she can find it on the lead or as a counter. Aldana can move her head well, weaving side to side while maintaining her high guard, looking to catch and pitch counters, but she can be hit mid-exchange and has shown vulnerability to leg kicks due to her front foot heavy stance as well. While her footwork on the outside is solid, her necessity to get into exchanges has costed her when trying to pressure, as she tends to follow opponents looking to line them up for an exchange instead of tracking them and attacking space. A solid grappler, Aldana works hard from every position and keeps busy with strikes, be it in the clinch or bottom position, but her wrestling can be a bit lacking during prolonged exchanges. From her back, she's aggressive with classic submission attempts from her guard, and also transitions to leg locks to create movement, similar to the style of her coach Diego Lopes. Aldana is very tough and well conditioned, but she's not very versatile tactics wise. Dumont, a Sanda kickboxer. Dumont is well rounded and fights with an ease and comfort beyond her experience. Norma Dumont can operate from both stances. She's a low output but is a punisher kicker with good distance management, with a dangerous 1-2 on the counter with which she has hurt several opponents, and she has a decent follow-up left hook to put behind it. Dumont has quick hands, good mechanics, and stays composed during exchanges, while she can sleep initial shots and smother opponents with good clinch entries. She tends to trust her distance management a bit too much, backing up with her shin high to avoid a lot of strikes. That, mixed with the tendency to rely on hard reads, can get her in trouble against a mix of combination and feints. On the topic of clinching, Dumont not only has good entries, but she offers a good mix of strikes and takedowns from a variety of positions, being well versed with takedowns from body locks, over-unders, and collar ties, and she has solid knees, elbows, and tight hooks during breaks. But just as with her striking game at range, her output could be higher. Dumont can also shoot from range and get clinches if she's not successful attacking the legs, and her Sanda background has transitioned in her being one of the best fighters at catching kicks and transforming catches into takedowns in the division. We haven't seen much of her back, but she seems to be urgent at scrambling back to her feet and seems to be a solid wall walker. From top position, she's heavy but not very active with ground pound, being more concerned about control, eventually choosing to let opponents back up to attack during the get-up rather than dealing with submission attempts from the bottom fighter. Dumont is an athletic and well-rounded fighter, but her lack of output and urgency hold her back. That and her not being a good instinctual finisher despite hurting people often. A high-level matchup at 135, Aldana comes off a big comeback win against a fighter with some similarities to Dumont in Rosa, where her output and aggression were her the fight after getting her lead leg compromised. She will need more of that in this fight, hopefully without conceding a big lead early. Dumont does bring some interesting quirks into this matchup. She might not have the aggression of Rosa, but she's probably a bigger, cleaner puncher, and her ability to grab clinches and counter kicks might give her better access to control the pace of the fight. Aldana is aggressive from her back, but she has lost time against opposition players, and while Dumont is not damaging from top, she can eat the clock and control the fight. Inside the pocket, both fighters offer danger from both hands, with neither having a marked advantage when it comes to shin or defense, so things could end up being up to chance if they exchange a lot. I feel like Dumont has the tools to control the fight and win exchanges consistently, but I feel like facing a fellow puncher who is willing to put more numbers out there might cost her here, so I'm picking Aldana by decision. Do you hate that Dumont will feign and if the opponent reacts she will just meme mug instead of capitalizing on the reaction? Dumont is so smug, so I cannot hate on that. I wish she had like a lot more output, to be honest. But I love that she's so smug. Like Dumont is like she will like catch a kick or like evade a punch, and she will look you with the face of like fucking idiot. And the same, like she feints with the like ghost said, like she will fake her jab, for example, and if you flinch, she will like, ha, you fucking idiot, you flinched. I don't know, man. I like Dumont. She's very frustrating to watch, but she's like a good fighter, and I like her personality a lot. I'm also a very big fan of Aldana, so this fight is like my favorite my favorite bantamweights, to be honest. With Carol Rosa, I'm Carol Rosa. I'm a big fan too, but yeah, this one is like I feel like Dumont is the more skilled fighter. I feel the more complete fighter, but I feel like she lacks the urgency. She lacks that like fighting spirit, and I feel like Aldana has that in spades, right? I'm not talking about the body of Dumont at all here. I'm not here to I'm not here to objectify these women fighters, for fuck's sake. What's the next one? You know, this card is like all bangers. I gotta say, like, people are mad about this card. I like it a lot, man. Not one fight that I don't like in this card. I gotta be honest. Okay, let's get into the next one. And we have a flyweight bout between Ronaldo Rodriguez and Ode Osbourne. Let's begin with Ronaldo. Lazy Boy is a powerful fighter that fights from a plant hunch stance. A bit of a slow starter, he marches forward with his high guard, figuring out his timing and targets before upping up the aggression with wide, heavy hooks to the body and head and hard leg kicks. Rodriguez throws most of his strikes at full power, and there's not much nuance in the way of setups to what he does. But he varies targets, hits hard, and has good eye for openings, being good at adapting, finding uppercuts, or wrapping hooks around guard mid-combination. His defense is bare bones, either stepping back or looking to parry or block if he makes the right read, but his deficiencies are alleviated by his aggression, control of the initiative, and some feinting. Takedown defense has been sketchy. His wide swinging and planted style mean he can be timed with reactive takedowns, especially when squaring himself for the rear hand. He makes up for it being a good scrambler and a very opportunistic grappler. Rodriguez always looked to create movement after being taken down with butterfly hooks, and is very good at reversing position during transitions or using submission attempts to get on top position. From top position, he will chip away with constant ground and pound, and despite being susceptible to being reversed himself, he's just an opportunistic hunting for submissions, particularly finding the back and finishing the deal with the rear naked choke. Rodriguez is tough, well-conditioned and powerful, but his lack of nuance and subtlety on his offense and his verbal defense means he depends on big moments or his damage to take a toll to be able to take over fights. Against him, we have Osbourne, a long southpaw kickboxer. Ode likes to keep things clean, establishing a long distance behind his lead hand and kicks, spot shotting at opponents, waiting for them to close the distance to try and intercept their entry or pull back and come back with counters. Ode packs decent power and is a decent counter threat both with the check right hook and the straight left, and his long frame allows him to find sneaky knees as well. Osbourne is also good at following up his counters, not being content with single strikes after a clean connection, particularly punishing retreating opponents. A good amount of feigning and solid movement on the outside make the task of pressuring harder than it would seem, as he fights for initiative constantly and is aware of not getting trapped against the fence. His defense revolves around distance and angling out in meeting exchanges. When forced to exchange, he's still a counter threat, but his chin keeps high and he's vulnerable exchanging on equal terms. Osbourne will change levels to mix things up, often using the transitions to look for knees, but he's not afraid to push hard for a takedown or grind against the fence from time to time. Overall, grappling is not a strong point from Osbourne. Takedown defense is solid, especially his fierce layer, which is helped by his length and footwork. His top game is nothing to write home about, and while he's good at creating movement using his frame from bottom, he has had trouble against higher level grapplers of the division. Osbourne is decently conditioned, but his durability is a bit concerning. His chin looks solid at times, but he has been blindsided quite a few times. He has heart and grit when needed though. This matchup spits the desire of Osbourne to keep a fight clean against the messy style of Rodriguez. Both guys pack power and are dangerous in their own way, and I expect the Mexican to struggle earlier with the long strikes and footwork of the Jamaican. But as the fight moves on, I expect Rodriguez to find his mark more and get into longer exchanges, especially if other movements slows down a notch. Osbourne has the tools to keep Rodriguez at bay with his long strikes, moving him into shots and countering when he swings, but what makes me nervous here is Osbourne willing to mix takedown threats. Rodriguez is not the level of grappler of the last opponents who submitted Osbourne, but grappling with him can be draining and contributes to making the fight uglier. I think Osbourne is technically superior, but I'm picking Rodriguez to find a submission in round 3. Okay, next one is a banger for sure, man. I'm very excited about this one. It's Zellhuber versus Ribovics. Let's get that one out of the way. Uh, We go back to lightweight for the next one, and this one is action guaranteed. We have Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovics. So let's begin with Zellhuber. A long kickboxer, the Extreme Couture product has a massive reach, and despite being a good kicker, he does most of his work with his hands, using his jab and rear straight to draw counters, sliding out of range and coming back with his check hook follow-up rear hands, and sneaky uppercuts. Zellhuber has a good eye for openings, and his volume gets better as the fight goes on, and he finds his jab consistently. Other than his long reach, Zellhuber is also constantly taking proactive defense measures, be it moving his head after his combinations or angling out when exchanges get messy. He can freeze behind his high guard when he gets surprised, and his punches are a lot stiffer mechanically when he's forced to throw back as opposed to throwing his calculated counters. Not much of a proactive wrestler, his takedown defense has looked very solid. Not only it is hard to get past his punches, but he fights grips well and uses his levers to his advantage in clinch situations against the fence. As a tall and long fighter, he likes knees during transitions, and he likes to dissuade level changes with the threat of them. When he has ended up on top position, he has looked solid positionally, mostly opting for strikes and punishing get-ups more than pure control, and has shown the ability to thread and finish with the front headlock chokes, like the anaconda he used to finish Giagos. Despite his good habits, Zellhuber has looked at his most vulnerable when pushed back, and when he's forced to exchange in 50-50 scenarios, where his lanky frame and long punching mechanics make him clumsy instead of a dangerous sharpshooter. That, coupled with his tendency to take a while to find his jab, are the biggest issues so far for the very promising fighter, who looks durable and well conditioned. Against him we have Ribovics, an aggressive combination puncher. Ribovics is a switch hitter that can put together meaningful combinations from both stances. He keeps busy with his jab, quick 1-2s, and roundhouse kick to all three levels, waiting for counter opportunities or his opponent to accept an exchange. Ribovics feints well, and he builds his offense on top of the reactions he's seeing, having a good eye for counter knees, his sneaky right high kick, and particularly his combination punching, which is his A game. Ribovics string long combos together, packing power in both hands and attacking body and head, using his good vision and poise inside the pocket to head his opponent into shots or just unleashing flurries with speed. Uppercuts up in close and inside the clinch are also of note. Ribovics is at his best when pressuring, as he needs control of the initiative and good risk for his counters, as his head movement is lacking both sitting back and moving forwards. But he has some footwork tricks and can block reactively well when he's being proactive. Takedown defense has sketchy spots, but it gets better as the fight goes on, as the pressure allows him to fight for underhooks and take angles well, or get to the cage to pommel and stay upright. When it comes to grappling, Ribovics is a solid scrambler with a very versatile Kimura game. He will attack Kimuras from multiple positions, and he will use them to sweep and achieve get-ups. And he's also good at using whizzers and classic guard attacks to create space and work his way back up to his feet. Ribovics can take a bit to get going, but he's creative and dangerous fighter with the potency and cardio to back it up late into fights. He's mentally tough as well. Takedown defense can be concerning, and his deficient head movement can get him into trouble. So, as I said, this is a guaranteed action fight between young strikers. Ribovics can emulate what his countryman Francisco Prado did in the first round of his fight against Zellhuber to achieve similar success. And while Prado might be more naturally powerful, Ribovics is a better mechanical puncher and also a more fluid with his combinations. The problem is that after a good round one, Zellhuber put on a beating on Prado, sticking him at long range. Once the explosive entries lost a step, Ribovics is known for his conditioning, and his creative output will probably allow him to find answers to the reach issue as the fight goes on. Zellhuber could very well replicate his last performance and exploit the suspect defense of the Argentinian with his sharp strike shots, but I think Ribovics can maintain his output without fading, and his own attrition game is solid, especially if he gets going with his shots to the body. Taking a risk here, I think Zellhuber is the rightful favorite, but I think I'm picking Ribovics to win a decision. Ghost says, do you save your notes for each of these shows? Yes, I have my notes saved. I rewrite the breakdown of the fighter for every pay-per-view, but I reuse notes a lot. Usually just like watch all the new fights to make some adjustments to the analysis, but I recycle a lot of analysis, right? Because like the observations of the previous fights are still the same. obviously you gotta like update what has happened, especially when it has been like a long time since their last fight. For example, here the breakdowns for Diego Lopes and Ortega are exactly the same because they have like Diego Lopes had one fight, but I wasn't going to rewrite the whole thing, right? But I changed the analysis part because I have some new thoughts about that. Man, this score is saving my life right now because I'm so fucking sleepy right now. And I wanted to do this like way earlier, but had some trouble here at home. Shriram, Ribovics is cool. Remember Ryan mentioning his right hook as well. Yeah, Ryan made a very cool thread about Ribovics' right hook. And then I made a thread about Topuria's right hook, right? We have very few fights. Oh, the next one is actually Ortega versus Lopes. So why don't we get into that one? And with that, we have a featured featherweight bout between Brian Ortega and Diego Lopes. Let's begin with Ortega. The grappling ace turned into opportunistic MMA maestro, Ortega is a very hard to get a read on nowadays, especially because he has been so inactive. Even at his best, Ortega has always had trouble dictating the pace and phases of a fight, but his well-roundedness and instincts for finding effective tactics always kept him dangerous, even in his lopsided title fight losses. At range, he's a surprisingly crafty boxer who plays the role of a boxer puncher, liking to get into exchanges, trusting his chin and good eyes to find the shots he needs in the habits of his opponents. He has a good eyes for uppercuts from up close and tracking retreats with long shots from both hands. Striking wise, inside the clinch, he's very good at sneaking shots from single collar ties, being hooks, uppercuts, elbows, or knees, and he can transition between pocket boxing and clinch effectively. While never known as a wrestler, Ortega can surprise with level change mid-exchange and can grind for trips inside the clinch if he needs to. And he's physically strong and good at using his weight to drag people down and generate grappling if his more efficient takedowns aren't successful. Outside of his eye for transition, his grappling is his best phase, being a tremendously opportunistic submission grappler with his guillotine, triangle, and backtakes. But he's also a solid fundamental player from top position with heavy control and ground and pound, who can methodically work his way into arm triangles or rear naked chokes. Ortega physicality at this point is a bit of an unknown. Known as one of the toughest fighters in the sport, it is hard to tell where his chin is right now. Other than that, Ortega's deficiencies tend to show themselves when he's not able to use transitions to mask his lack of depth in singular areas. Against him, we have Diego Lopes, a long and aggressive BJJ fighter who mostly boxes on the feet. Most of his game revolves around countering entries with tight hooks that he throws with big pop and good mechanics. Diego Lopes doesn't move his head much, but he throws back at every opportunity, answers in combination, and him throwing tight allows him to block shots and also scare opponents. His defense can improve when he uses his jab to draw counters, as he can slip into his own counters. He's a bit more sloppy moving forwards, as he can lose stance trying to track opponents, but he does a good job of backing up opponents and punishing the body as they retreat, especially with the left hook. He can also actively look for clinches, where he makes good use of his length to attack with knees and tight hooks. And his hooks also show up during breaks. If he drives opponents to the cage with his advancements or clinches, he will drop for the legs looking for takedowns, but unless he gets an easier connection of the hands for the double leg, he's not a very layered wrestler, but can finish doubles and singles if he's allowed to work. His jiu-jitsu is his A game, and he's a very aggressive player that advances urgently from top and will actively transition from submission attempt to the next one instead of looking for control. Similarly, his guard game is kind of on the old school side, but he will attack armbars, triangles, and will roll for leg locks constantly, sometimes to generate space, but usually fully committing to attempts. His biggest weakness is the lack of variety to his stand-up game, lackluster takedown defense when thinking about striking, and his reliance on submission attempts from bottom that don't give him a path to stand back up. Once again, we find this fight booked. Last time I was tentative tentatively picking Ortega, assuming he showed up in good form, but I'm losing faith on that being the case anymore after a bad botched weight cut. Last time the fight was somewhat short notice and now they get full camps, but it was still a bad sign that Ortega couldn't even make 155, right? This fight is still very interesting as it pits both high-level black belts with dangerous boxing against each other. Ortega has probably lost a step athletically, particularly speed-wise, but he's probably the craftier and more fluid boxer, while Lopes is probably the bigger hitter of the two at this stage, and relies more on timing entries to put quick hands together. Lopes is also a demon during transitions, very quick to take action, and that's a place where Ortega used to shine during his prime. All that being said, I still see a path for Ortega. Behind all the flash, power, good and quick decisions Lopes makes, there's not that much of depth behind it. It is a well put together game, but Lopes needs big picture adjustments or to go harder when things aren't going his way, because he doesn't have much flexibility to his strategy and tactics. He just does what he does very, very well. Ortega is more fluid in that sense. We've seen him play numerous roles in different fights, and we also seen him come back from rough starts to find finishes, or an almost finish like he did against Volkanovski late into fights. After he failed to show up for the first time, I'm not trusting Ortega anymore. I feel like Lopes will get an early lead that Ortega won't be able to overcome, something similar to what happened in the Ige fight, so I'm picking Lopes by decision this time around. Trayvon says, card is very, very entertaining in terms of the matchups. Yeah, it is. I love the sweater. Yeah, it has a skull and it says like school 1989, which is my year. So that's very cool, and that's all by coincidence. But yeah, the matchmaking in this pay-per-view is fantastic. It's just too bad that it's just 10 fights, right? Especially for the people that are paying for this shit. Rio Sosen says, Ortega got hammered with knees in the clinch against Jair. Lopes has good collar ties, entries with uppercuts. Is that a different dynamic? No, it's kind of... The thing with Jair is that he's like super long, and Jair is like... Jair is still Jair is still like super quick. I feel like a bit quicker than Lopes. And the thing that if you go into like uppercut war, like Ortega is very good with uppercuts himself from the inside the collar ties. So but that could be an interesting dynamic. I would be interested to see how the durability works out for both guys, right? Because both guys like hit super hard and are known to have like very good chins. Shriram says Ortega seems a little underrated in terms of just being good at stuff, maybe a little physically gone, but just really crafty and has nice skill set for flustering guys, round cut openings. Yeah, I feel like he just has such a knack for openings that it's like very rare in the sport, right? Thank you, Red Chilean, to dropping off. Catch the top 2 fights tomorrow in the BOD. But yeah, the thing with Ortega is that he just very good at finding stuff, right? And I feel like Diego Lopes just keeps, even though he has a very well put together game, I feel like Diego Lopes just does the same stuff until it works and it breaks people, or he fights the shots that he needs. I feel like Ortega is a lot more adaptable, and I feel like if the fight goes long and Ortega still has cardio, that could be very dangerous for Diego Lopes. Ige seems like a tough matchup for a dynamism merchant since he's super tough and very principled in a lot of spots. Trying to know correct based on that over sure notice fight, but it's tough. Lopes seems like a tough early matchup if you need early reads, kinda. Yeah, because Diego Lopes comes out fighting like a maniac, right? So that makes it hard to make reads. But I feel skill-wise, I feel like Ortega is better, and I feel like The thing is that Ortega is a good boxer and a better grappler. I feel like Ortega is straight up a better grappler than Diego Lopes. So that could make things very interesting. I'm just not trusting Ortega at this stage anymore. But if we went like prime versus prime, I gotta say Ortega better than Lopes. Ortega, another one that had a broomstick takedown. I mean, the thing is that I'm not expecting him to pull out the broomstick here against Lopes, but Diego Lopes takedown defense has seen sketchy moments in the past, right? And we saw that Ortega has been working on those like body lock takedowns, and that's not a place where Diego Lopes has had to defend a lot of takedowns in the past, especially not at this level, right? He has been taken down by double legs and stuff like that. And I feel like Jair Rodriguez is not a good wrestler, but he's like alright. He's not like anyone who tries to take Rodriguez down gets a takedown, right? Most of the time they get beat to pieces. So Ortega had to show some like wrestling chops from the body lock to get Jair down. Lopes gonna get wrestled to make all the Pat Sabatini better so mad. There's a chance, man. There's a chance. I mean, Ortega is like quite a bit bigger than Sabatini, right? Like Sabatini is a thick dude, but he's kind of small, and he got like big brothered by Lopes a little bit in that sequence when he got finished. So yeah, let's get into the co-main, and I'm guessing a lot of you guys are super excited about this one. And after that, we move to the first title fight of the night. Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko face off for the third time. The champion Alexa Grasso won the title from Valentina, then retained in a draw. That I'm still not sure how you scored that a draw, but it was a very close fight, so not complaining super hard. So yeah, we have Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko for the third time. So let's talk about the general matchup, right? Grasso, it seems like after like having like a decent run at flyweight, but she showed up for the first title shot against Valentina like completely optimized to exploit like Valentina's habits, especially some that are more apparent now that Valentina is like out of her prime, losing a bit of a step. So what should Grasso do here? The same thing that she has done in the past few fights. Force exchanges, trust her punching mechanics. Every time that Valentina grabs a clinch, you see that Grasso punches out of the clinch very aggressively, doesn't allow Valentina to try to get control or anything. She just goes ham with punches, then mixing in the southpaw to take away some of the tools from Valentina, especially the body kick that was being successful quite a few times. But Valentina, on the other hand, she has some tools. The jab from open space, Valentina knows how to jab against orthodox fighters, but also has been winning long portions of both fights with her jab in southpaw versus southpaw. I think that one thing that Valentina could do in this fight is not sell out for the 1-2 all the time. With the times that she has chosen to use the jab alone to set up more stuff other than just going like hard with the 1-2 every time, she has been a lot more successful. Her footwork is cleaner when she's just jabbing instead of selling out for the 1-2. So I feel like more jabs and then being a little bit more selective with the rear hand could be a very good choice for Valentina here. And Valentina needs to be careful about staying in the pocket too long for Grasso, especially because when they are southpaw, Grasso has been very dangerous with the lead right hook, right? Level changes are another thing that Valentina should look to implement here. Valentina has been able to take Grasso from the clinch, but the clinch has been a sketchy place for her in this matchup, just because I mentioned pushing out the clinches, being just so aggressive, Grasso with knees and all that. So yeah, even though Valentina has made a career of beating people up in the clinch, I feel like she needs to be a little bit more selective with that. And on the flip side, when Valentina has changed levels and has gone for like double legs or like trips from just over the waist, she has been very successful with that and has posed some of the stuff that makes Grasso dangerous for this matchup. That is like staying very grounded, heavy on that front foot. That doesn't put her in a very good position to defend takedowns. So I feel like Valentina should go for the double legs and the jabs a lot more in this time around. And I thought that she was winning doing that during the first fight, but then she decided to spin and got punished for it, right? And when it comes to top position, I think like Valentina needs to take like less chances positionally. Like don't go crazy going for mount, going to take the back. Just maintain solid position. If you get to crucifix, that could do, because Valentina is very good from the crucifix position. And I think Valentina, more than taking this risk with positions, like going for risky passes and that kind of stuff, she should go for more ground and pound. Like make her time on top position count, right? Win the rounds once you get a takedown. Something that could go both ways in this fight are calf kicks. They could play a role, especially if they fight from close stances. We've seen a lot of southpaw versus southpaw in both fights between Alexa and Valentina, because both girls can stand very heavy on her front foot. But also both are good at countering the leg kicks with straight shots from their rear side. So it could be interesting to see if either of them decides to go with that. Valentina mostly went from inside low kicks when Alexa was in southpaw, and she was not very successful at dealing damage, but she was using to like score and keep busy, measure distance. So there's a place for that, right? I think the thing in this matchup is that Valentina is just not, the time is not the friend of Valentina. Is Alexa's friend right now, right? Valentina is only losing a step. The physicality of Alexa has been more troubling to her, and I expect that trend to continue. I'm not expecting Valentina to turn back the clock here. I feel like Valentina has a path to victory. She has shown the ability to get takedowns, to out jab Grasso on the feet, to land aggressive body kicks if Grasso stands unorthodox, but Grasso is just more like the matchup at this stage with the physicality of both. It just lends more to Grasso having these big moments that steal rounds. And when I say steal rounds, I mean like rightfully so, right? Like she has the more damaging, the more dangerous moments. So it's like Grasso doesn't need to win like 4 minutes of a round when she does like way more damage off a single takedown, off a single pocket exchange. So yeah, I feel like this is a matchup that a lot of it depends on Grasso having this like physicality edge on Valentina, and a bit of that is because Valentina is not in her prime anymore, right? Not to discredit Grasso at all. I feel like she came very well prepared into the first fight, and then Valentina made some good adjustments on the second one, and Grasso still showed up, right? So I feel like the matchup is just like, the longer it goes, it just gets Valentina has to play like thinner and thinner margins, and I feel like Grasso is going to win this one and put an end for once and for all to the reign of Valentina. Valentina, who is a fighter that gets a lot of crap from being boring and all, but I gotta say, I defend my position that I feel like Valentina is probably the GOAT from women's MMA. I rate her higher than Amanda Nunes, to be honest. So yeah, I feel like Alexa is going to catch a submission on the third round, and she retains her title. That's the pick. Going back to the chat. More like Pat Sabatini. Grasso, Aldana, and Lupi all walk down with the high guard and gets cracked with jabs. Why do you think that camp likes to the look so much when they get tagged with jabs? I feel like they bank on their ability to like outscore the jabs with their power punches. Alexa didn't used to do the high guard thing so much. She used to be more of a slick boxer, and she used to jab herself a lot more, and she moved away from that style. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But yeah, I think they're taking the gamble that okay, you just walk behind the high guard, and if you get jabbed, that means that you can land your own punches, right? And because like especially like maybe Lupi not so much. Lupi is a decent puncher, but especially like Alexa and Irene are like very big punchers in her divisions, right? So and they can put like combinations together, and they're like, okay, we can afford to eat a few jabs because we can come back with our better hands, more tighter hands, and these girls are like spar very hard. They're used to take a few punches, so they're not scared to take punches, right? I'm not saying this is like a perfect game plan, but I'm just trying to make sense of why they fight like that, right? Do you hope this fight is close and Valentina loses again? I don't really care for Valentina being weird. Like it is funny for a while, but actually I want like either either way. I want to finish in this fight, to be honest. Like I don't want more like ambiguity, right? And if Alexa is going to be champion, like I want her to be like clearly the champ, because like this trilogy is kind of weird, right? First fight, I thought Valentina was starting to look very good, taking control of the fight, and then Grasso has that huge moment, get the submission. Then the second one was super back and forth, and there was like quite a few adjustments. It was actually a good fight. It was actually a good fight, and then the scoring got kind of sketchy, right? It really comes down to that fifth round because like the one, two, three, and four were like super clear. Two for Valentina, two for Alexa. But then the fifth round, like Valentina won like most of it, like by a very decent margin. But then she botches the takedown, and Alexa gets to the back, lands ground and pound, and it's like super close. So I understand scoring it either way. The draw is just very weird, right? By the way, even though Valentina got dropped in the second round, I think that's 10-9 because Valentina got top position, landed ground and pound, won most of the round. Obviously, that's still a Alexa round because she got the big moment, but yeah, I mean, it was like I felt like you can score like 48-47 either Valentina or Alexa for that second fight. So I'm not that mad about the rematch, and the second fight I thought was very good. Like they both were doing like silly stuff at times, but what is a championship fight without silliness, right? Okay, I'm all out of energy drinks, so let's get into the main event. Let's get into that main event, man. And with that, we arrive to the main event. We have a fight for the bantamweight title. It is Sugar Shan Omalley against Merab Dvalishvili. So let's talk about a few things about each fighter, and then we can get into like game plans and then some final thoughts, right? Uh, let's talk about like some things that are very interesting moving into this fight. One thing that I've seen is that Merab has dialed down the pressure early into fights. He doesn't come out of the gate super aggressive. He takes his time. He circles a little bit on the outside. He still maintains like output, right? But he doesn't put himself in the fire immediately. He like takes his time to establish his space. And the thing with that is that Merab, I feel like he's limited from the outside, even though he's like a willing kicker. Being a kicker could be a double-edged sword here, especially when it comes to leg kicks. Leg kicks could be very helpful for Merab, not only for the attrition, but because there's like a good target that can limit the mobility, that can offer him an easy target to score. But leg kicks can get him countered. Like the difference in reach here is insane, and Omalley has gotten very good at countering. Merab has also been hurt somewhat often as of late, but has shown good instincts recovering. Not only like just coming back from the death against Mario Moraes, but he actually hit a very excellent clinch into a pivot against Cejudo when he was on skates. So Merab has some cool skills behind all the like output and bullshit, right? The snatch single might be an option against Sean, because like Sean O'Malley can stand up in a very wide stance. He can be heavy on that front foot, and maybe Merab can find the snatch single there, right? But the trip finish that Merab likes can be hard against someone that is like so tall, and establishing control if you finish with the trip can be hard too, and Merab is not like the most controlling guy, right? We know that Shan can be chain wrestled. We saw that against Peter Yan and basically no one else. But we know that Shan Ken is actually pretty decent at working get-ups. That MMA lab grappling is there, right? And to be honest, if we go back to the Peter Yan fight, Yan could fight from a closer range than most guys against Omalley, because he has very good defense, he has crafty footwork, and he has power of his own to threat Omalley. So Merab would have to take risk pushing forwards to get to the same place that Peter Yan, but it's not impossible, especially if he starts like imposing a pace, wearing on Omalley eventually during the fight. I feel like Merab will find opportunities to shoot from up close. That is something that I feel he needs if he wants to like get something going with the grappling. So let's get to game plans. For Omalley, I think Omalley needs to... This is kind of obvious, but I think he needs to try to maintain the center of the cage. Like, obviously, he will still move on the outside, but I feel like he tries to stay inside the black line of the octagon, right? Using his footwork. Don't circle wide too often against Merab. Omalley needs to try to regain space through feints and straight shots. I feel like Omalley would be wise to attack the body with snap kicks, stand Merab up with high kicks, because like Omalley is like not like a prime head kicker, but he has like quick kicks. I know he can throw to the head. I mean, he did against Quiñones, right? But yeah, that's a very good tool, because Merab, who is like, he has this stocky build. Omalley probably has like a good access to kick to the head, and if he kicks constantly to the head, maybe Merab will be more tentative about changing levels. That's a very good tactic to stand people up. I feel like Omalley in this fight should not stall like he did against Sterling against the fence, because Merab will be busier with strikes, and not like Sterling, who was just like grinding and pushing against the base. So every time that Omalley spends with his back against the fence, he will be losing, because Merab makes those positions count. So I think Omalley needs to be a bit more urgent about getting off the cage. If Omalley hurts Merab, I feel like he needs to start punching the body immediately. And I feel like if he wants to put him out, I feel a knee would be a good idea. But he needs to be very careful with the takedowns, right? He needs to be smart about how he set up a big knee to put Merab out. Another thing for Omalley is that he doesn't have to be afraid of a scramble with Merab. I don't think Omalley needs to like accept guard or just say like off a takedown like okay, we're giving up this round. We'll begin again in the next one. Like you just need to risk it and work for a get up. Merab will land damage during get ups, but he's not like super controlling, so you're better off like getting back to the feet, doing your own damage instead of like gifting time, right? For Merab, I feel like Merab needs a harder start than usual. I feel like Merab has improved about eating space slowly. We saw that against Cejudo, like very sneaky pressure with small steps. I like that, and I feel like that would be very useful in this fight. And Merab needs to lead with like safe strikes. He doesn't jab a lot, but I feel like he needs to jab here. He needs to time the leg kicks of Omalley, especially during retreats or while he's circling. Doesn't need to stand right in front of Omalley and try to leg kick because that could be dangerous. I feel like Merab could benefit tremendously from throwing straight punches to the body and body kicks just for the attrition, because Shan has like that long body and he favors head defense so much. Merab needs to push against the fence, keep busy with strikes, and look for big moments during breaks, right? When Omalley feel like he's getting outside, that's where Merab needs to throw like a big kick to the body or to the head. Look for big elbows, try to snatch single leg. He needs those big moments during breaks when he feels like Omalley is like, okay, I'm going to reset. That's where you attack. And I feel like Merab is very good about attacking resets. Every time that Merab gets a clean takedown, I feel like he needs to sell out for damage. He needs to make Omalley aware that the consequences of getting taken down are dire, right? I don't think Merab should focus on controlling on the ground. That's never been his game. I think he needs to focus on making moments count, right? He needs to just like, even if Omalley is going to be up in like 10 seconds, just go ham with ground and pound, go aggressive with that. Make him scared of getting taken down. Making Omalley think that, oh, okay, if I'm getting taken down, I'm eating some big shots, I might lose the round, right? He gotta go for that. When it comes to more nuanced stuff, I feel like Merab is very important that he feints with Omalley at all times. Do not concede the initiative completely. And he needs to kick with Omalley constantly. Even if he's losing the small battles of like kicking range, he needs to like return leg kicks, go to the body with the kicks. You cannot concede range, especially because Omalley is so much longer than him, right? And another thing that I feel like the last one that is a more of a tactic wise thing is that Merab, when he gets like a single leg and it's not very deep, just let go and attack during transitions. So that will help you making Omalley respect the single leg, right? Because if he defends a single leg and there's no consequences, he will grow in confidence. But if you get a single leg and you get the takedown, or you go for a single leg and he defends but he gets clanked in the head by a big wide hook, you're telling him, every time that I grab your leg, something bad is going to happen to you. And I feel like that's something very important that Merab needs to like install in the head of Omalley. So some final thoughts. I feel like both guys have clear paths to victory. How they implement is going to be key. Shan needs to be careful with his footwork and just pile up damage while being efficient. If he finds opportunities for head kicks or knees, that would be great against someone as hard to put out as Merab. Merab will need to find the balance between pressing and taking chances, but also not offering his shin on a platter. And his kicking game and how he slowly eats up space will be very helpful here. That said, I feel the biggest differential in like skill and danger here is at long range, where Merab will be forced to close the distance somewhat recklessly, unless he has improved his countering ability and has tightened up his punching mechanics. Shan's game seems like particularly well prepared to deal with Merab without engaging too much in the grindy parts of his game, and he will also be the most straight up dangerous striker Merab has faced in this run since a very busted Marlon Moraes, who almost put Merab out, right? Even if Merab gets to close the distance or get a takedown is not like a guaranteed win. It's not game over for Omalley. So Omalley can get back into fights even if he's fighting at a cardio disadvantages. And maybe even like a durability disadvantage in this fight, right? But yeah, I mean, Merab is so hard to put down. So I feel like I don't expect either fighter to win all rounds, but when the fight is done, and I expect this one to go to decision, I'm thinking Omalley is going to take it. That's my pick. And that might be like a weird pick for some. I'm guessing most people are expecting either like Omalley by knockout or Merab with the decision or late finish. But I'm going here with something kind of controversial. I feel like Omalley can win a decision here. Maybe he will lose like maybe 4th or 5th round, but I feel like he will do damage early. He won't fall apart with a few takedowns. He might get tired, but I don't think it will be enough for Merab to get the finish. So I'm picking Omalley by decision. That's the final pick. And that's the podcast. I mean the analysis part at least, right? I'll get into some of the highlights of the card. I'll get back to the chat for those of you that are listening to the live version. So yeah, fights to watch out for. Edgar Chairez versus Joshua Ban is going to bang. Jauregui Souza is fun. Torres versus Bahamondes is fun. Aldana versus Dumont. I like this card a lot, man. But yeah, I mean, if I have to give you like the seal of action fight, I know a lot of people are looking forward for Ortega versus Diego Lopes, but if I have to give you my pick for the exciting action fight guaranteed, is Zellhuber versus Ribovics. Like no way that fight is boring at all. But yeah, this card is very solid. Like the fight actually I care the least about is like Raul Rosas versus Aoriqileng, and I feel like that's completely fine. Like it's a good fight for Rosas. Maybe not the most compelling, and I'm expecting him to win easy, but Aoriqileng can make some stuff happen. He hits hard. So yeah, that might be like, if that's the worst fight of your pay-per-view, that's a decent pay-per-view. The only thing that sucks, as I've said quite a few times already, is that it's only 10 fights, right? But I feel like the matchmaking here is fantastic. When the UFC makes it good, you gotta admit it, even though the UFC sucks, right? So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. If you want to support the Fight Site as an ongoing project, remember that you can head over to Patreon. For $45 you get access to a Discord server and a lot of exclusive content, an ever-growing library of exclusive content. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Catch you on the next one. And that's it for the recorded part of the podcast. Let's catch up with the chat. I feel like there's some new comments and we can talk about. Okay. Aside from Omalley versus Vera, would you consider Omalley striking very minimalistic front kicks to set up the open side counter? Yeah, he has solid like roundhouse kicks that he doesn't use as often, right? But I like this more like variety approach that Omalley had against Chito, even though like Chito was not really throwing, so he kind of went to town with variety. But I feel like actually, I feel like a lot of guys could do better without much variety. But I feel in the case of Omalley, because Omalley is very decent with his shot selection, that I feel like he's better when he's attacking with variety, right? I feel like he's more dangerous. He is more surprising, especially as he's fighting better opposition. I feel like some people feel like Omalley should like pare down the selection of shots against Merab, but I feel quite the contrary. Like a lot of the strikes that Omalley throws are very safe against takedowns, and he throws very balanced. He's very athletic. He's quick. He can afford to throw a lot of kicks against a grappler. For Merab, do you think he should keep the stance close, fake Omalley to defense and low kick? I'm not sure if I feel like Merab should just try to find low kicks on retreats, but I don't think Merab should play like a fully like leg kick game plan here. Like that's not his thing. I've never seen like Merab hurt anyone with low kicks, so who knows? But I feel like he should implement some low kicks. The close stance, I'm not sure, man. I feel like Merab from Southpaw is kind of sketchy, and Omalley on Orthodox is pretty decent. So if they play like open stance like that, like if Merab loses track of the mirror stances, he could get hurt doing that. I feel like Merab should like come prepared to fight like a mostly Orthodox fight here, and he needs to just have tools. One thing that Merab could do is like just spam the body kick in me as soon as he sees Omalley on Southpaw. Trying to convince him to fight most of the fight Orthodox, which I feel plays into his advantage. Shriram says, we really suspect Merab has some success playing the outside here. Might need pressure long term, but can kick and move to make Shan close distance. Yeah, I mean, Shan is very good leading, but he doesn't like to like pressure people to track down people, right? So I feel like you're right with that. But also like Shan Omalley is very patient, so he can just sit back. And I know that I don't think that they are going to have like a super boring fight. Is Omalley really good at faking blitzes? Yeah, but I feel like the pressure is dangerous because it makes yeah, I feel O'Malley's pretty good at faking entries. I feel like the feinting game of Omalley is very strong. Especially and I feel it's more it gets stronger when he attacks with variety, like I was talking with Ghost early, because it makes when you have more variety, it makes more feints more convincing, right? While if you're throwing the same strikes all the time and you feint something different, fighters might not bite into that. Yeah, I feel like pressuring is like carries some danger for Merab for sure, but I feel like he needs to do it. I feel like trying to do like a Lee Scarmouche game plan where you just expect to win like dicey rounds. I'm not sure if Merab is willing to play that, and I don't think he wins that, to be honest. Like he could have some success, but at the end of the day, like Omalley's like the way longer, quicker striker with better mechanics, with better shot selection. So, and I don't think that Omalley is going to like try to pressure Merab if Merab moves on the outside. He's just going to wait, and he's going to outpoint him from neutral ground. What do you think of O'Malley's weird look while he will throw a high kick and throw a spinning backfield at the same? Yeah, he's just like having fun, and those are like interesting setups. They are not likely to work against a high level opponent, but they keep them on their toes. They are like they make opponents like shaky, like careful, and those kind of like wild moments, like punching of kicks or spinning after a big strike, they can dissuade counters, so they have a space. You just gotta make sure you are you just gotta make sure you are safe when you're doing them, because you can open yourself for counters when you go for big movements like that, right? Is attacking single leg, then letting go a punch in transition even against wrestler a good way to take the initiative? Yes, yes, I think that's you just gotta be careful with uh, you just gotta be careful not committing too hard, because you can might get reversed, you can get like a butt drag, you might get into a guillotine. So if you feel like you're in a big grappling disadvantage, you can still go for like a knee tap, like a very shallow, and then come back with punches upstairs, just for variety, and because it's like it changes things up, right? If the other fighter is not respecting and like your striking, you can go for the fake wrestling to make them respect you. So I feel that's a very good look, and something that strikers should do more against wrestlers, to be honest. Are front kicks good against wrestlers? Depend the kind of front kick, but most front kicks I feel are good against wrestlers. Most wrestlers cannot catch a kick, especially not a front kick one. I feel like Omalley has like very punishing snap kicks that are pretty safe against wrestlers. So I feel like he should implement those in this fight for sure. And that's all the questions that we have, it seems. So I'm guessing we'll leave it at that, right? Not a super long one like others, but I think we had fun. We talked about some very cool fights, and I was like super late publishing this. I mean, streaming this. I was supposed to do this like 2 hours ago, but it is what it is. For those of you who turned up for the live version, thank you so much, guys. You guys make this all worth it. Hope you enjoyed the analysis. I'll be posting the recorded version of this tomorrow morning into all platforms, Spotify, iTunes, whatever you use to listen to podcasts. It's going to be there, and obviously it doesn't have like all the chat interactions. And obviously the VOD for this stream is going to be available with timestamps, so look for that as well. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on